This is a bacteriophage. It's a virus, and it has viral DNA, which is purple in our diagram here. And this is a cell, which happens to be a bacteria cell, and it has DNA, which is white. Now what happens in viral reproduction is the virus will attach to the outside of the cell, and it'll stay on the outside, and then it's going to take its DNA and inject it into the cell. Once that DNA has been injected into the cell, the viral DNA is going to attach itself to the cell's DNA. Here we have the purple viral DNA and the cell's DNA, which is white. Once that viral DNA has attached to the cell's DNA, a couple of things can happen. One of the things that can happen is the cell can enter the lytic cycle. If it enters the lytic cycle, the viral DNA will begin to tell the cell to produce more viruses. And when it starts producing more viruses, the cell will eventually get full of viruses and it'll start to expand. When it gets too full to hold all of the viruses, it's going to pop open. We call that lyse. When a cell bursts open, we say it lyses. And when it pops open, all of the viruses are going to escape. And then they'll, in turn, go infect other cells. This is where the organism starts to feel sick because the cells are bursting open. It kills the cell. And so they'll start to see symptoms of being infected by a virus. Now another thing that can happen is the virus can inject its DNA, and that DNA can go into the lysogenic cycle. In the lysogenic cycle, instead of having the DNA tell the cell to begin to produce viruses, the viral DNA will just kind of hang out in the cell for a while, attached to the cell's DNA. And eventually that cell is going to go through mitosis and it'll divide and produce two more cells. And the two cells that are produced will also have that purple viral DNA in them. And then those cells will continue to reproduce more cells that also have the viral DNA in them. And eventually you have a whole bunch of cells in the organism that are infected by viral DNA. And this is dangerous because eventually the viral DNA will go into the lytic cycle, and it'll start to tell the cell to produce more viruses. And then once they produce enough viruses that they can't hold them anymore, they'll burst open. And when you have thousands of cells now that have been produced that contain viral DNA, all of those cells bursting at once can be very damaging to the organism, so they can really feel the effects quickly. Now, while the virus is in the lysogenic cycle, the organism really doesn't feel any symptoms of being sick. It's not until that viral DNA becomes lytic that it starts to notice any symptoms of being sick.